Now, it's time for the Anchormen Podcast with Matt Gaetz and Dan Ball.
Welcome back to another episode of Anchormen. I'm Matt Gaetz. I host the Matt Gaetz Show here on One American News every night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 Pacific on weekdays. And this is our special project where we get friends together and have more extended discussions about things going on in life, the news, politics. And I have with us for this program one of the great icons of the MAGA movement, someone I've known for a few years. He does not miss the major events that drive the energy and enthusiasm for our cause. We've been through a lot together, and so I'm really looking forward to it. But first, are you ready for the flu season, or are you just hoping for the best? Don't get caught off guard. Be prepared with All Family Pharmacy. Their process is simple and straightforward. A licensed doctor reviews every order, and the prescription is included. Unlike big chain pharmacies that push the flu shot as the only option, All Family Pharmacy believes in medical freedom and gives you real options. You pick the medicines you know work for you. Now's the time to stock up your cabinet. They have everything you need. Tamiflu for flu treatment and prevention, antibiotics, antivirals, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, immune support, and more than 200 medications to choose from. It's my go-to prescription pharmacy, and I also get supplements delivered right to my door. Shipping is fast, and if you need it right away, overnight is also available. Be proactive, prepare now, and visit allfamilypharmacy.com/Matt. Use code MATT10 to save 10%. Again, that's allfamilypharmacy.com/Matt, code MATT10. Let's get to it. Brick Suit, thank you for joining me here in studio. And first, just to set the stage for kind of the rarefied air you occupy among the activists and influencers and the heartbeat, give me the origin story. How did you come to adopt this persona that has become recognizable at all things MAGA?
Well, before I give you the story, congratulations to you and Ginger.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We're thrilled.
Wonderful news. I mean, I see those posts. I see them on Ginger's account as well, and it's just I'm very happy for all three of you.
Oh, thank you. We are blessed.
So the origin story is way back. Let's go back to Donald Trump's first election, 2016. I'm not a registered voter. I'm a conservative in California, not involved in politics. Voted for Reagan in '84. Never voted again in any election, okay? 2016 rolls around. I want President Trump to win. I was not convinced he would be a good president, but I hated Hillary. Hated Hillary, okay?
Why?
Oh, well, yeah, how long was the show? I don't think
Yeah, but give me the number one thing, if word association, Hillary Clinton.
Crooked. It's still a Trump word, but she really is. She's the worst.
Yes.
She's just a vile person, and I did not want her to be.
Okay, so that motivates you. So you get in the game.
So, I still wasn't in the game.
Okay.
I'm just on the sidelines still. I want Trump to win. I'm on the Donald on Reddit, the best subreddit ever on that site. And if Reddit does nothing else of consequence, giving birth to the Donald is enough for me. So I'm following.
Wait, how many people are in that community?
There were a lot.
Yeah, because I've heard about it as a social phenomenon.
There were a lot, and it took that website by surprise because we were pulling memes from everywhere. We were making memes. We were pulling them from 4chan. They were all getting up there, and they had no idea how to keep this influence off of their site, and they were not. Let's just say they weren't conservative friendly. So
you find your way to the Donald.
Find my way to the Donald. I start doing memes after that famous President Trump meme of him wrestling the CNN logo comes out.
Yes.
And then CNN threatens to dox the person who made that. Okay? So that's what got me off the sideline. I started doing memes. And then, as we know, in 2018, after the midterms, social media companies started catching up to how do we quash down these conservatives. And you started seeing accounts canceled on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter at the time. Alex Jones, Stefan Molyneux, all sorts of people, their accounts were just going away. And I started thinking, well, if you can't have First Amendment on the web, I'm just going to do it in real life. And I got my first MAGA hat, and I started wearing it out in San Diego.
But the online censorship drove me
to do it in real life.
Wow.
That's what drove me to do it in real life. This is the online.
Because a lot of people get demoralized by it.
Correct. And this was, and the stories were coming out that time. It was like, the kid at a Whataburger in Texas who got assaulted because he had a hat. You remember all the stories about people getting, physically accosted because they were wearing a MAGA hat.
Right.
There were a lot of them. And so I didn't really know what to expect. So the first time that I'm wearing my MAGA hat in public, I'm just going to like the most liberal shopping mall I can think of, Fashion Valley here in San Diego.
Amazing.
Okay? And I'm just walking around Fashion Valley, just camping out in the Apple store, setting all the home pages to the Donald, doing my thing, just having some fun. And then when I was done, I went to, of all places, I think it was Cheesecake Factory, just to get some dinner. And I ordered steak, which is, I don't know, go figure that. But when I came to pay, my bill was taken care of. My bill was taken care of. So somebody saw me wearing the hat and paid it for me.
Did you see anyone else in the Cheesecake Factory wearing a hat?
No. Oh, no.
So maybe it was someone...
No, nobody was wearing hats.
Well, right. Maybe it was someone that didn't have the own courage.
It's exactly what it was. It's just people. Then I realized there is this wellspring of support for the president. People aren't willing to support, to demonstrate in public. And let's be honest, there are some people who probably can't do it. They might be lawyers. They might work in the entertainment industry.
They might be married.
It's true. So for whatever reason, they can't let their Trump flag fly,
right,
so to speak.
But their little act of protest was to buy your steak at the Cheesecake Factory.
Right, or just
I love it.
Just appreciative, So then I would wear the hat.
So you're getting positive reinforcement.
Positive reinforcement.
Some negative reinforcement, probably.
Oh yeah, but not a lot, because even back then, when anti-Trump hysteria was at probably its peak, you still wouldn't get that much because people would not, they just behave differently online. They're paper tigers when you meet them in person. Usually
you're also a tall guy.
Well, I wish I was 10 feet taller, like all walls do. But a little inside Trump joke there. But it was for the most part positive.
Okay, so what brings you to the rallies?
So my dad and I had a trip where he was already back east, and I was flying to meet him in Dulles Airport, and we were going to go up to Pennsylvania. And I had the last 2 days of that trip free in D.C. And so I'd already been to 2 rallies by then, and I was thinking, well, you know what? If I'm going to be in D.C., I need something else to really trigger the leftists, more than just the hat that I wear. And I found this online.
There you go.
I just looked up, for some reason it came to my head, wall suit. And I typed in wall suit, and this came up. And certainly the best $80 I've ever spent in terms of, earned media or wherever, but, just totally crazy. So I'm just like, I buy this to wear like on the mall. I'm thinking I'm going to go by the White House, maybe to the Capitol. That's going to be my DC trip. And the day before I'm scheduled to leave San Diego, President Trump announces a rally in Montoursville, Pennsylvania. Small little town, airport rally. And I look at the calendar and the map, and it's only like 120 miles away from where my vacation already was, and it was in the last 2 days that I had free. So I'm like, well, I got to go to that rally. So I go to that rally, and the first place I ever wear the Trump suit at a rally, the wall suit at a rally, I'm changing in the ADA porta potty because it has the most room. So, I'm sleeping out there overnight. I was second in line behind a couple from Nebraska who had driven out there. Getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. I don't have an umbrella. It's raining. I'm using the garment bag. I'm sitting in a chair. But then rally energy kicks in the next day. I put on the suit, and I get to the front row, and then President Trump saw me in the front row, and he's like, look at that guy. Look at that guy. Get him up here. Get him up here. So, I went up on stage, and I don't remember much about it, Matt, honestly. Everything I remember from a certain point is really just what I watched on YouTube later. I remember people telling me, get up there, he's calling you. And I'm thinking as I'm climbing over the barrier, those metal bike racks, it's got the flag.
Yeah, Secret Service going nuts the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Like a normal person, like, where's the Secret Service? Where do I get in? No, I just start climbing over the barrier. And the things that I can remember thinking to myself are, don't trip and don't step on the flag.
Two excellent pieces of self-advice.
Don't fall. Don't step on the flag.
But
And
you
then
get up there.
I get up there. I shake his hand. Say a few words. Tell him I'm from San Diego. I don't really remember what he said to me or everything I said to him because it was like an out-of-body automatic.
Everybody was cheering because of the suit. Everyone saw this energy and incarnation of support for what was the driving policy of that campaign.
Correct.
And you were this bundle of energy bounding around on stage. I remember watching it. I remember being so thrilled. And so you do that. And this number, I'm sure, is going to shock my audience. How many Trump rallies have you been to?
I don't count them.
Okay.
I don't.
But like almost all.
If I had to no, it's not as many as people think because, there are times during a campaign where he'll do 3 in a day. And obviously I can only be at one.
Sure.
So if I had to guess, actual rallies is maybe somewhere around 60-ish. But then there's other events too, like, where he'd be talking at, like,
So there are a lot of people who've never been to a Trump rally.
Right.
Maybe, if they live in an area that's not a swing state, you just don't get them all the time.
Right.
How would you describe, as a man who's been to like 60 Trump rallies, and we always see each other, take some photos, it's this warm experience. How would you describe to someone who's never been, but just sees the portrayal on mainstream media?
For the most part, the portrayal in mainstream media really doesn't capture it at all. And to the extent that they cover pre-rally meetings, it's usually negative. And in some cases, it's used as a foil. I mean, like there are people who go out there to shoot content at Trump rallies, and they really go out there to make fun of the people who are there to support the president.
Which is cruel. It's picking on people. It's bullying.
It is picking on people, especially when you consider that those are media professionals with an entire team behind them, the power of editing, and they have gone through their script versus a person who is there just to support President Trump and may not be sophisticated in what to say to the media and how to convey their message in that moment.
Sure, but the energy that I was so drawn to at these Trump rallies was very much a family reunion type energy, right? Like if you think about your family reunion, there are probably some people who've done pretty well in your family. There might be some people who are just getting by. You're going to see a warmth, an embrace. And then what emerged there were these personas, these characters, people like the Front Row Joes.
Correct.
Became this iconic group of people, and the Trumpettes, and then the ladies from North Carolina that would come with the cowgirl hats. And when you came, it almost had a production ensemble cast element to it, and I wonder how you reflect on it, and what you would even compare it to when describing it to someone who maybe hadn't felt it.
I don't know. I gotta think that maybe there's some sort of analogous type of experience with people dedicated fans who follow a band on tour.
Right.
Okay, that might be the thing that's closest to what I can compare it to. Because when I accidentally became Brick Suit, like when the president of the United States calls you on stage and you are wearing this, you become Brick Suit. You don't really have an option. There's no turning back. So I leaned into it, and then wanting to get up near the front, I would get there earlier than most people would. And that's when I discovered what exactly you're talking about. Meeting the people became as enjoyable for me, if not more so in some cases, than the actual rally itself. And so once you turned it into that, it's like not only is the rally fun, but the process of meeting people and being able to freely speak your mind politically, which for me wasn't that difficult, but I could tell that for other people who would be there, it was very much, they were now in a safe space. And, they may not have been, and suddenly they're surrounded by like-minded people, and it's just a very enjoyable time.
The label that the media tries to put on this movement is hate. That this is a movement of grievance and hate and scapegoating others. And it is just so far from the experience I have, where
Completely opposite.
right, love is the organizing principle, love of country, and that's a really powerful thing.
And complete inclusion for everyone who loves America. So it's not just love of country. It's just like, if you love America, you're with us. It has nothing else matters. Nothing else matters.
What do you think is your favorite rally you went to?
All right, if we're gonna talk about rallies, we got to throw out Madison Square Garden,
Okay.
because that wasn't really a rally. That was more like a one-day convention.
Extravaganza.
It was fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
And then both the Butler rallies have to be taken out.
Yeah.
The second one was fantastic. It was perfect. But again, I don't think it's not really fair to compare that to the other rallies. So honestly, the one in Montoursville, I really liked, not just because it was the one that I was called up on the first time, but it was just the type of setting I really liked. You were at an airport. It was outdoors. The sky was dramatic. It wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold. So people were in good spirits. And because sometimes if it's a hot rally, like I went to one in Yuma where it was 114 degrees.
And you wore the polyester suit?
Yeah.
In 114 degree weather?
Yeah, exactly. So it can sap you, and like that'll sap the energy from the crowd too. So the optimum rally weather is I would say 70 degrees. So Montoursville, anyone put on by Turning Point,
Yeah.
the Turning Point rally. So
There was a little more
number
magic to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 2 is the one where in Glendale where RFK Jr.
Oh, yeah.
joined up. This is after Butler, where RFK Jr. comes out on stage. That was fantastic.
A great moment of unity.
Yeah.
And Trump understands that a good show has to have a little surprise. It has to have great warm-up acts. There has to be a constant theme. And I went to so many of these rallies and would look around, and I would even ask myself, is this politics? It didn't
Coachella was pretty awesome, right?
Yeah, Coachella was hot.
Yeah.
Coachella was hot. But at all these, it felt part cultural, part spiritual, part nationalist in all the right positive ways. But it didn't feel like anything I had ever encountered in politics before, as someone who's run for office, at the state and federal level. And I wonder why. I wonder what it is about President Trump that turned politics into a cultural phenomenon and created this kind of platform for personas and people like you to really emerge and captivate people's interest.
Well, I think at the root of that is he's the first politician in my experience who just made it so that you have the permission to be patriotic, that you have the permission to advocate for your country before others.
You didn't feel that way about the Bushes?
I did not. No, I did not.
They had the whole Texas machismo thing.
I will give him credit for throwing a great first pitch
Yeah.
after 9/11.
Totally. Best moment
Okay.
of his presidency. You nailed it.
No, absolutely.
We'll have to put that in post. Yeah, no, you're right.
I will give him
Absolutely
credit
crush it.
for that.
Yeah,
But,
that was kind of the high point.
right. But not across the board were you able to be patriotic. President Trump breaks all the molds and the conventions that people expected from politicians. And he did so at a time when media was really newly able to bring that type of image to the populace via the web. So it wasn't just the broadcast networks. It wasn't just conventional mainstream media. It was the underground that really conveyed that. And people wanted to be part of that because they could feel that energy.
Well, right. And your story is so interesting because you emerge just as a guy out of a Reddit forum who was tired of being censored online. And so you're like, well, I guess you'll have to deal with me in real life now.
Yeah.
So when people meet you at these rallies, what do they say? Do they ask you questions about the suit?
Oh, yeah. They asked me questions about the suit, like, where'd you get it? And
Do you sell them? Did they ask you those things?
There are other people who, if sold knockoffs. But I don't really try and monetize it. I think it's really interesting because from the very beginning because I had no social media presence at all, so I was able to decide, like, do I really want to do this? Am I gonna go to these rallies and do this more? So what am I going to call myself? So I didn't want to use my name because it's not about me. It's about President Trump's connection with the voters. And so I decided to go as Brick Suit because people would remember that moment. And that moment is unlike anything else you would see in American politics or foreign politics for sure. Because can you see Macron calling up anybody from the audience? Angela Merkel, she's going to call anybody. It's not going to happen anywhere else except in America. And even in America, it only happens with President Trump. And so it's really,
it shows his populism.
Yes.
It shows that any one person matters to him. That people aren't just kind of the sum of their parts. We aren't just producers and consumers. We aren't just orbs or blocks of votes. We're like human beings. And he takes the care with people. Come up, have a moment. He doesn't always have to score the basket. He could have an assist in that moment, have you there, celebrate you. And those are some of the best moments. And they're the unscripted moments, and that's what most politicians hate, right? The people I used to work with, they want everything down to the minute by minute. That's when this person says this to this, that. Trump wants it to be kind of a big, raucous, energetic experience. And as you became prominent at a lot of these things, I can only imagine it was quite a moment when people get to meet you. Did people ask often for selfies and those types of interactions? Did you ever have like a selfie you wouldn't give?
There's a few because people wearing something I don't want to be associated with.
Okay.
So you're looking at T-shirts to make sure it doesn't say something that you don't really want to be, like that's not something I want to support. I think the favorite moment I have is in that 2020 campaign. I had the opportunity to be a correspondent to some rallies. And so I was actually up on the media riser. And my favorite moment of that was having Jim Acosta right in front of me.
Oh, wow.
And just Jim having to treat me cordially, which he did, to his credit.
But he's like
But I know that I would imagine that inside he is seething. And
sure.
And I'm up on the riser in the suit.
Yeah.
In the suit doing it. So yeah.
And now where's like Jim Acosta, like canned from CNN, as we're celebrating our triumphant president leading our country back to success.
Yeah.
When we were on that campaign trail in 2020, man, we had to face a lot. And I really thought about you when President Trump was shot, because I assumed you'd be there. I know how much you care for the people who attend, and it was literally one of my first thoughts. Did it at any point in time discourage you from wanting to go back to these things? Did it shatter that spirit of love and togetherness we've been talking about? Or because I mean, just for myself, I was grief-stricken that type of violence would be brought upon a moment of such celebration.
I never had qualms about going back. Never. In fact, I wanted to. It actually made me redouble my efforts and made me commit to going to even more rallies than I could. Now, I was back at Butler because some people don't know this, but I was actually an RNC delegate from California.
Oh.
So I was already planning to go to Milwaukee, and they added Butler 2 days prior. And I'm like, well, maybe they're going to announce the VP. Maybe I can change my plane ticket. So I was able to change my ticket to be able to go to the Butler rally. And, I went straight from there to the RNC. So I don't think, it wasn't like I went home and really had time to reflect on it. I thought about it a lot at the convention, and a lot of people were asking me about it because, I did some interviews and they could see me in the footage. I was in the front row right there. But it never made me think that I wouldn't want to go back to a rally because that would be,
What was it like seeing him there on the ground? This triumphant president, this person we love.
Well, I couldn't, since I was in the front, he was behind the lectern, and they've got that kind of like a
the glass
bunting, but they didn't have glass there. I mean, like, this is before any of that. So
I see.
They've got the bunting, they've got the lectern, and then they've got basically they're about like 3 feet high, and it looks like a little parapet wall, but it's steel. So, like if you hit the floor, it would stop, rounds from coming at you. From my vantage point, I could not see him on the ground. I could only hear. And so I heard the Secret Service saying things like, let's get ready to move him, and not knowing if he was, incapacitated or not, because I didn't have a direct line of sight to him. Now, the people in the back in the stands, they'd be able to see that because they have a direct line of sight to the president. I did not. And so
what were people around you doing?
Every possible reaction. I had reached down to get my camera because I wasn't filming at the time the shots came. And I figured, well, I'm looking, I can't see anything. I should film this. And so I just filmed him getting up. Other people were just staying on the ground. People were crying. It was all going very quickly. And then we saw him stand up. And, I was close enough that I could see his expression. I could see the fire in his eyes. And then he said, fight, 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 made that gesture. And even if you were in the very back row and not 10 yards away like I was, you knew what was happening in that moment. And I think that people don't, and President Trump took a lot of criticism for making that gesture, for taking the time to do that. I think that people who criticize that don't realize how crucial that was to reassure everyone that he was okay. And if he had just been whisked off the stage right away and taken to the hospital and there'd been no word for a few hours, bad things could have happened.
Oh, so you think part of that moment, part of the miracle of that moment, because truly a miracle that he wasn't killed, is that, despite Corey Compatore's death, which is just deeply sad and tragic and awful, we could have even had more casualty of injury or some other chaos ensuing. And chaos does seem to be kind of the goal of these political assassinations and assassination attempts. And for all we are criticized for of being insurrectionists or being anti-democratic, we're the ones trying to keep people alive, keep people calm, keep people secure in the version
Absolutely.
of events you're sharing. The campaign goes on from there. We get this switch from Biden to Harris. And I remember just, being on the inside of the campaign, the tumult that caused. It'd be like if you were preparing to play football against the New York Jets and you show up and it's like, oh, well, you're playing against the Giants instead. And meanwhile,
but not just different teams. It's like you're going against a passing team now to a running team. It's like totally different styles. So it's not even like it's like nothing you were preparing for works, because you're running against infirmity. You're running against abject failure. And now, and you're running against his age, and now you're running against Kamala, and it's a whole different thing that they're putting out here.
Totally, and the media made her to be this grand star darling in a completely uncritical way, and I almost think that was her downfall. I almost think her downfall was she never faced the tough interviews with grit. She never was willing to be pressed on viewpoints she had or positions she had taken. It was a candidacy that was just so I would say plastic in a lot of ways. Whereas Trump, you may not like the words he uses, you may not like his tone of voice at times, but there's something real and authentic about it that America had been craving after Joe Biden. What did you think in that time when Harris steps up to become the candidate?
Well, I had seen her here in California, and I think she was ill-served to be in that moment because she really has never faced a contentious campaign.
She's a machine candidate.
Correct. That's how she got advanced and other ways.
So people in California knew that. People in California knew she was a machine candidate, had never really been challenged, never really tested, gets made
until
a star
the
of the
Democratic
Senate.
primary, when she drops out before she even gets to her home state, where she's polling under like 2%.
Do you think she's going to come back and run for governor?
Oh, no way. No, I don't think so.
Would California Democrats don't want her, you don't think?
I'm really hoping for the Katie Porter experience here.
Why is that?
Because she's so off the rails. I want to make memes about potatoes, and I want all of her tapes of like.
Is she the most memeable?
Oh, absolutely.
Candidate of the Dems?
Candidates for governor right now, I would say so. Yeah.
She is.
I don't think Kamala's going to come back and run for governor. Could she? Yeah, but I don't see that as. I think that she. Hard for me to get inside of her head and imagine what she's thinking, because that's a really big, open, vacuous, empty space that I could really run around in for days. But I think that she would see that as a step down. And above all, I think that she is concerned with face. And she can now retire as having run, complain it was just 107 days, when in fact it's that nobody wanted her, complete rejection of her personality.
Yeah, it wasn't like with another 107 days we were going to like Kamala Harris more.
We would have had an even greater,
Probably.
we would have won the popular vote by even more, and we probably would have picked up 2 or 3 more senators.
Yeah.
And we would have maybe won even some additional states.
Run in 2028, Kamala. We're here for it. I do want to get your assessment of just kind of how things are going, having been a part of this activist base, because what we've covered is Trump is so unique and how he was able to draw from people based on the sense of patriotism, a deep commitment. And you embodied that commitment in just what you meant to people looking to have that rally experience. You became a part of that experience and at other functions. But as you look at the administration now, we're in a shutdown. He's trying to make peace in the Middle East, a place that's been blood-soaked for forever, and he is giving peace a chance there. We see the economic growth at 3.8% now annualized. What's your assessment of where we are in this moment?
Well, there's a couple things happening here. One is that the team, this administration, is just head and shoulders above the first administration.
Not even the same.
It's phenomenal. Marco Rubio's doing great. Harmeet Dillon, my favorite dark horse candidate for like most impactful player in the administration. Like,
it's
4 years from now, when we look back, 3.5 years from now, I mean, she's stacking up W after W.
Well, because there was so much bad the Civil Rights Division was doing. If I'd been Attorney General, I was going to hire Harmeet for that position or an even higher one, because she has got the ability to just go in and cut all this nonsense that they've been doing, pushing DEI, limiting the appropriate election integrity efforts going on around the country. I think you're right. I think she's one of the total stars of this.
Yeah, and then you've got Robert Kennedy, who's just making great inroads in the MAGA coalition, which people thought was just going to be like, oh, that's just a gimmick for the election, and then they'll forget about it. But no, he's HHS secretary.
Take that, Democrats.
Yeah, exactly.
Not only did we take your black and Hispanic males, we took your Kennedy.
Yeah.
Your most handsome Kennedy we took.
And, Tulsi as DNI is doing fantastic. And just across the board, it's better. So we're just seeing progress. Now, against that backdrop of progress, oddly enough, there's still, I think, unfortunately, a segment of Trump supporters who are not happy with the progress because they want even more faster. And
that's just so us, isn't it? Wanting more, wanting it faster.
Yeah, exactly. But if you look at it,
that's okay. President Trump says we're allowed to want more.
Right. And there will be more winning. But I think if you look at what President Trump's second administration has accomplished so far into it, it is light years ahead in terms of pace of anything we could have realistically expected.
Look, it's already made your suit not trendy. The border is secure.
I know. It's like nobody's been paroled into the border for 4 months. It's like so.
And remember the way they acted like
we can't do anything without the laws being changed.
They acted like it would be easier to go to Mars.
Yeah.
than secure the border, than to build the wall. You don't hear people saying walls are racist anymore. Isn't that something?
No.
They don't say that.
Nope.
You know why? Because it's working. Is there a single Democrat in America who is suggesting that we take down the wall anywhere? Because like if the walls were so racist and so evil, how come AOC and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren aren't filing bills to remove the wall? If that's what you believe. But they won't do that because they see the American people are invigorated by their new security. And people appreciate that. And we are a nation that deserves to know who is coming and going. That is not unreasonable. But as you look at the deportation agenda, is that really what you wanted to see?
100%. Absolutely. It's not really playing out the way that I envisioned it. But I think that it's, because really during the campaign, I'm just like, yeah, we have to deport everybody who's here illegally. But I really wasn't thinking about the mechanics. How's it going to work? It's kind of like, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I think that the way the program's been structured loosely is it's very effective. You're removing all of the incentives for people to stay. Okay? You're actually incentivizing them to leave. We will help you leave. If you leave of your own accord, you can make an orderly retreat. You can sell all your stuff here, retain that money, go back to your country, and have the ability to apply for readmission. Or you can stay here, risk it all that you don't get pulled over for like a tail light, and then you're, on a bus somewhere because there's already been an order against you, and you're going to be deported, and you're going to lose everything you've got, and you're going to incur fines, and you're never going to be able to come back. So there's part of that. And that driving of self-deportation is what I didn't really see as happening. I knew we'd be able to capture people, and I knew we'd be able to track people down to court appearances, but I didn't foresee the shift to self-deportation. And I think that when people look at what's happening in deportations right now, they're focusing on Chicago, they're focusing on Portland, they're focusing on the hot areas like that. But it's like, that's just underscoring to people who are in our country illegally the need for them to go. I mean,
and that's not cruel.
No.
We're not suggesting that there's some sort of retribution element to this. But the country cannot simply absorb the 20 million plus people that Biden-Harris let in and then just have kind of a de facto amnesty around that.
Correct.
Those people have to go. And then I agree with you. Of course, there should be opportunities for people to make their case for immigration to our country, as they've always had the opportunity to. And throughout our country's history, we have accepted immigrants or had more restrictionist immigration policies at different times, depending on our own interests.
Correct.
And that's okay. It's not xenophobic. It is not hateful to the people on the other side of the wall. It is loving to the people on our side of the wall. And I think that is something we should expect from our politicians. The part of the base you referenced that wants to see more. Let's get into that. What is the more they want to see?
It varies by person. There's people who want to see, in sense of more, they want to see less foreign involvement. So maybe that's a more that they want to see.
More reform to our foreign policy apparatus.
Correct. So that's like they want
Where do you
progress.
think that we're involved where we shouldn't be?
Pretty much everywhere.
I love you.
Pretty much everywhere. I mean, it's like, if you're buying munitions from us, that's different than us loaning.
That's commerce.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
So like if the European Union wants to buy arms from America and then give them to Ukraine, I don't have a big issue with that.
Me either.
But we shouldn't be giving them to Ukraine.
No, and then we do this phony lend-lease thing, which is just another way to put the burden on the taxpayer. It is very hopeful to see President Trump forging some peace in the Middle East. Is that something that you think people voted for, getting that peace dynamic and peace paradigm in place?
Absolutely. I mean, he said he was, he's trying to end the other big war too. And I think that eventually we'll be successful in that. But yes, I definitely voted for him to be someone who was ending conflicts rather than starting them. And he had opportunity in his first administration to start conflicts. Do you remember when we had our reconnaissance drone shot down?
Do I ever?
$350 million reconnaissance drone, and then people are like, we need to go to war. We need to go to war. And I'm like, dude, that's why we have drones. So we don't get pilots shot down. So we're not forced to go to war when the people we're spying on shoot down our tools of observation. That's exactly why you have a drone, you know? And so,
but in that time, you had Lindsey Graham, you had Mike Pence, you had the Pompeo, Bolton, you had all those guys suggesting that because an MQ-9 drone got downed, we had to go to war with Iran. So I remember, it's so crazy. So I remember talking to the president during those moments, and I was in an Uber, and I'm sitting there saying, you know, this or that, and the Uber driver looked over at me, and I said, before you say anything, no one will believe you if you repeat this. And he said, my English isn't so good. I said, where are you from? He said, Northern Virginia. But yeah, I think that it's so interesting you highlight that because it gets glossed over by history, but it is so telling that President Trump's instincts are lashed with reason and logic.
Yeah, and not beholden to, you know, the globalist neocon uniparty that wants conflict for the sake of commerce. You know.
Yeah.
And so,
but that is a key defining characteristic of MAGA that I think the people who try to co-opt MAGA don't really understand, and they won't be able to. Like the people who go to these rallies, the people who knocked on doors in Pennsylvania, they believe in Trump because they trust him and they trust that he will not, you know, sleepwalk us into some stupid conflict where our interests are not clear. Are you confident, Brick, that this change in ideology that President Trump brought to the issues we've discussed, like immigration enforcement, like foreign policy, are durable in the Republican Party beyond President Trump's tenure?
I absolutely think that they are. I mean, because at the core of it, they're all evergreen issues. They're not going to go away. Will a politician emerge who can be as successful in conveying them and articulating them to the public? That's a really tall order. But I think we have a deep bench, and I'm hopeful that someone will take up the mantle successfully. And I think that part of that is going to be where we're at in 2 years from now, 2.5 years from now, where the 28 campaign has begun in earnest. Okay, so
do you expect a competitive Republican primary in 2028, or do you think there'll be a lot of appreciation for, you know, J.D. Vance being an exceptional vice president and a desire to give him a run at the presidency?
I think J.D. Vance is an exceptional candidate. I'm extremely happy when he was chosen as VP.
Same.
You know, and if we compare him to Kamala, just like no experience running Kamala versus JD, fresh off a very contentious Senate campaign where he performed very well.
And the guy built businesses. The guy's a brilliant mind.
You know, I think that the American public is the Republicans do I hate open primaries. I hate open primaries.
Open primaries are so dumb.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous that Democrats anywhere should have any say in who the Republican nominee would be for president in 28. It's absolutely hysterically ridiculous. They should be gone. We should have closed primaries and no ranked choice voting. Get rid of that baloney as well.
Yeah, like that would be like you at your church inviting people in who don't share your religion to pick the pastor. Mm-hmm. Like it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah. So I think that if we continue on our current track of success, I believe that J.D. Vance has really the inside track. And does that mean that no one should oppose him? No, I don't think so. I think that if there's people within the Republican Party who want to run, they should be free to throw their hat in the ring and see how well they do. I can tell you as someone who's been to many, many rallies, and I had the pleasure of going to a few that were just JD during the campaign. And he does something that more effectively than any other candidate I've ever seen is he would go through his remarks and then he would open them up to the floor to the reporters in the back for unscripted, impromptu questions that he had no rehearsal for. And he handles them excellently.
It shows confidence.
Yes. And it shows a breadth of knowledge.
Yeah.
It shows that he has mastery over what he's talking about. And it's not, let me get back to you on that. I mean, there was never a KJP moment or a circle back moment for him or anything like that. It was like, maybe in a small, super nuanced detail, but for the most part, he was able to do that effectively. And I think that the American public conservatives will reward him with the nomination if we have continued success. And I just think it's just the obvious way to go. I think that that's well-deserved, but it's not, by no means will it be a coronation. By no means will it be, no one else has the right to run.
No, that didn't help the Democrats.
That's not going to happen.
Well, no, that's not who we are. I think even JD would say that competition makes people better. It sharpens our ideas. I never minded when people ran against me for Congress. I thought more choices was typically a good thing for the voters. And then it's your job to make your case. And like you said, if he continues this great work that we've seen on display, he's obviously got the political skills. It could be a pretty exciting time for our movement to maintain that continuity. Because what I don't want to see, for all we've done, as hard as we've worked for this president, if at the conclusion of his time in public office, we go back to some Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan version of the Republican Party, guys like you aren't going to be awakened out of regular life to, devote yourself to political messaging and political causes and political organization. People just won't do that. And it's something we have that's very special, and it's not our birthright. We have to continue to nurture the sincerity that we get from Trump and the policy portfolio as well. I can't let you go without talking a little California stuff.
Okay.
Because this Proposition 50 thing that Gavin Newsom is doing is a direct attack on democracy.
100%.
Call me old-fashioned. Yep. I actually think that the voters should pick the representatives rather than the representatives picking their voters. But it doesn't seem like there's really much of a fight going on. It seems as though if they put Gavin Newsom and Barack Obama's picture on an ad in California, there is a sufficient voter base to do whatever they want, even if it's really harmful to the voters themselves.
California politics are discouraging at times. And this is one of the reasons I didn't vote from 84 onward, because, with the Democratic majorities, it was really difficult to have anything happen. There were some bright spots. I mean, you say Schwarzenegger was governor. We all thought that was great at the time, which was better than the alternative. But
sure,
I think you're right. I think that the Democrats are able to call their shots in the state of California, which other states should look at as being a cautionary tale. You don't want to become like California, where it's just one party rule. And I'm not going to say it's one party rule, because that's not true. Republicans are active where they can win battles at the local
But they have no real power at the state.
They're not going to. It's going to be extremely difficult to win the governorship. It's going to be extremely difficult to win any statewide office. So you've got to. It's got to be.
I just don't get it, man.
It's got to be a multi-year plan where you're defending the areas where you have power and marginally increasing into the areas where it's kind of purplish.
I think that Steve Hilton is running a spirited campaign based on practicality. He's saying to Californians things like, the fire hydrants should work, and you should be able to walk down the street without worrying that some methed out homeless guy is going to try to rob you for $20.
Yeah.
You should know that when you leave your car in San Francisco, somebody's going to break into it and try to steal all of your contents. And these things aren't right-coded or right-wing. They're just offering people better than what they've had.
Well, I just think that there's people outside of California, and even some in California, just don't realize how many more registered Democrats there are.
Yeah.
It's like 4.5 million more.
Do the registered Democrats really want to see the houses burn and the fire hydrants not work and the homeless take over the streets?
That's the thing. They're registered, but they're not necessarily logical or rational.
That's so sad.
They're just vote blue no matter who,
And look what they get.
And that's how you get Kamala Harris. And that's how you get Gavin Newsom. It's not really. It's like whoever gets anointed to run for the campaign, they're going to win, and so they don't face real adversarial campaigns in the general election, and so they don't develop that skill, which is fine with me, because if Gavin Newsom thinks that his track record in California is going to transfer to the rest of the country, it's just not.
Just not. Democrats who want to be president, who I know, have told me that they believe Gavin Newsom will be the Democrat nominee for president.
And it very well may be, but I just don't think he can be successful.
Well, it's the fact that Democrats would even nominate him, that they don't have a better case study to present the country than what we've seen in California. That's their leadoff hitter.
Well, if it,
I'd go find the astronaut from Arizona, give him a shot.
Sure,
or there's the Jewish Obama in Pennsylvania.
And I was going to say, if it weren't for a questionable suicide verdict in Pennsylvania, there might be a more viable candidate there.
Jeez.
Like that. Basically, what many people believe was a murder was ruled to be a suicide when underneath his office.
Jeez.
So that's coming back to bite him.
I guess that.
But they don't. But you're right. Their bench is not as deep as ours. What are they going to go to? Like the proven record of people who haven't been successful. Mayor Pete.
Right.
He's going to come out. Bernie's too old.
He's got a beard now, so maybe.
Bernie's too old.
And not that kind of beard.
And honestly, nobody got jobbed in 2016 more than Bernie supporters got jobbed by the Democratic Party.
Oh yeah.
Nobody.
Well, Dean Phillips didn't even get to debate.
Yeah.
Dean Phillips ran against. If Dean Phillips had been given an opportunity to debate Joe Biden, he would have been the Democratic nominee, because Joe Biden wasn't able to stand on 2 feet and complete a paragraph.
Yeah. So I don't know. So that they've gone through several election cycles where they really haven't had a really robust campaign, and even 2020, you just know that whole thing. Everybody's dropping out before Super Tuesday, except Pocahontas is going to stay in just to keep enough liberals out so that Bernie can't really gain ground. They just basically ceded the field to Biden and picked their horse behind the doors, and the voters were left with a fait accompli.
So it's so crazy how the power moves behind the scenes swamp even the opportunity of voters to be able to choose their own adventure. Before we go, I do want to know what's next for you. You went to all these rallies. You've been this iconic figure. Folks follow you online. How can they continue to follow what you're doing, and what are your plans?
Well, the main social media outlet I have is on X, and it's brick_suit. Pretty easy to remember. I got a brick suit with a little underscore. And right now there aren't a lot of political events happening. That's going to pick up in 26. I think I'm going to go to as many as makes sense. And it's not just Trump rallies. It's going to be America First rallies, or candidates so I consider to be America First, like Andy Biggs in Arizona.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a lot with Turning Point.
Great.
I was just out with them in Arizona doing some ballot chasing.
Wonderful.
For Doreen Taylor, who's trying to unseat basically a rhino city council member who got elected and then headed up Arizona Republicans for Trump. So we're doing, Republicans for Harris, not Republicans for Trump. That would be the natural thing. She headed up Republicans for Harris. So we're doing ballot chasing for a recall initiative there.
Brick Suit will chase you down if you're on a city commission. Are there any homeowners association races you're getting involved in?
No, we're not going down that low. We're not going down
city
that low.
Council.
But I'm going to be doing some stuff, and I'm going to be traveling more, because I'm, up until 2024, I was still working full time, and now I'm really more kind of retired, semi-retired.
So people could see you popping up around the country in battleground races, supporting candidates you care about, and helping to emblazon that MAGA brand on people who can help us succeed in the government and have the president's back. That sounds like a wonderful thing to do. Do you think we're going to win the midterms?
There's a couple X factors out there. One is continued success of the administration, which I believe portends well for us.
Yeah.
Right now, today, the Supreme Court was looking at changing things about the Voting Rights Act, which may allow for certain states to redistrict in ways that could create more
cartography.
Correct. Eliminate basically the things that were done in the past that favored one group.
I got you.
And so just bring it back to a more rational, less gerrymandered way of creating congressional districts. I think that would favor us. So do I think that, can I say for sure that we're going to win in the midterms? No, I will retain the Senate, I believe. I don't think that that's at issue. The House is tougher.
Open question.
Much tougher. As you look at it historically, party in power always loses House seats.
I don't know.
Always.
I get it. I'm still bullish on Republicans maintaining the House.
Agree.
And you know why? The Democrats don't have a lot to run on. They were a shutdown over nothing. No, they're kind of leaderless. Their movement is basically a bunch of people who are out like throwing paintballs at ICE agents. And I don't think that's going to be appealing to the country. But you certainly are. You're appealing to our movement. I'm so grateful that you gave so much of yourself to rally people together, to organize, and to earn this victory. And I tell you, when I think about those 100+ degree days in Coachella or in Yuma, when I think about those cold days in Iowa and New Hampshire.
Iowa was minus 40 with the wind chill in Indianola. That was crazy.
I tell you what, I don't regret it. I don't regret a day of it. And I would do it all over again, seeing the success of the country. And if I could, I would do it all over again with you, my friend. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for joining us on Anchorman.
Been my pleasure. Thank you.
Want to see more great videos like this? Click on the link below to subscribe to OAN Live and watch Dan Ball's Real America and The Matt Gaetz Show on Dish Channel 212. Tune in, subscribe, and watch today.